Let's piss some people off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Am Spice, the podcast. This is episode 6, and this episode, we're gonna talk about a very, very important subject. In order for me to really draft everything that I wrote for this episode, I had to go back in my life many years since I was very young. And it took me a lot of notes because when you go through trauma and you go through so much, your nervous system just like it's like your brain just like erases so much that you don't recall a lot of the things that you've been through. And because you're not thinking about that constantly, at least not me. I'm not the kind of person that I'm constantly thinking about everything that I went through. I know that I went through those things, but I'm not the person that I'm constantly like victimizing myself for going through those things in my life. So, we're gonna be talking about what they don't teach us, what society, what our family, what the ones that we have gone through this never learned about this or never knew about what is they don't teach us about domestic abuse. And domestic abuse not always is supposed to be or like looks like what most people think it looks. I do have a lot of notes here if you're gonna be looking at me, looking at this side. I do have my iPad with a lot of bullet points because I don't want to skip a single note that I have here. I really had to go back since I was like 15 years old, because that's when I started my first relationship with my first partner. And it wasn't easy. It's like I wanted to talk about this because it was a realization that I came to at a certain point in my life. And I remember you know, the just like how my brain just went like, like when I realized everything that I had been through and how I was still stuck in that circle, even though I had left the person. So I just want to share with you guys and I want to talk about this. I do want to talk about who I was at the moment, who the person that I was with at the moment. Hence, I don't know if these people have mended their past or if they're different or if they have grown or not. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. That's up to them and whoever they're with. I am only going to speak on what I know I lived with these people in that moment in time. Which, by the way, I just hope, honestly, I hope that these people definitely had grown and had changed their ways. Um, I am not, I am not an expert. I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. You know, I'm just a survivor. But I do not victimize myself. My followers do not know that I've even like been through this in my life, and people like to belittle it because they just see it like, oh, you didn't go through anything if nobody laid hands on you. But people don't talk about how your nervous system shuts down and how it reshapes you once you go through domestic abuse. And at the moment, you don't even realize that that's what you're going through. And there's a reason why a lot of people don't realize that they're being abused is because no one has ever taught us what abuse really looks like. So just to get it out of the way, I'm not a counselor, I'm not an expert, I'm not a therapist, and I'm gonna speak on whatever, my truth and my lived experience. In this episode, I want it to be for the people who is still confused, silenced, and alone, and do not know how to go about getting out of a relationship that is just complicated and making you second guess who you are. And if you have already come to the terms that this is what you're going through and you don't know how to get out of here, I just want to talk to you about what I went through and how I dealt with it. So abuse doesn't always look how you think. When you talk about domestic abuse, usually people think that domestic abuse, it's like bruises, a black eye, like you can see it like in the skin, you can see it in the other person. But domestic abuse is not always like this. So there's a trigger warning that I wanna lay here. I won't go into graphic detail, but we're gonna be talking about emotional and verbal and psychological abuse. And if this is too much for you right now, or have you gone through this, recently, and you feel like you have to pass, that's totally fine. Because as a survivor myself, it took me a lot of thinking, a lot of reshaping on how to say things. I'm gonna be saying things based on how I went through them and how I felt them. Only I can speak about that. Only I lived that. Nobody else can say what's right and what's wrong, because I am gonna speak on the things that I experienced, and despite whatever anybody else say. And once again, is meant for people to decipher where they're at right now in life, and from a survivor's point of view, give you that backup that you need, that you're not alone, that you're seen, that you have the resources. You think you're alone, you're not alone, and you can do this. And abuse that is not seen is usually just silent and manipulative and very, very, very polished. You can be smart, you can be educated, you can be like me. Like, I was always the intelligent, the smart, the nerdy one, and you can still be a person that goes through abuse because of all kind of different scenarios. In me, I didn't realize how much I had normalized mistreatment until I started healing after many, many years. So this kind of abuse feels like wearing shoes 2 sizes too small for like years, and then one day you take them off and you put on like the right size, and then you're like, how did I live so much with this pain? Because once you open your eyes on what abuse is on any kind of level, there's so many ways of abusing a person, and the person that is doing it, like, almost most of the time they don't realize they're even wrong, because they're acting out of however they were thought to act, or whatever they saw at their house, or God knows where it comes from. Abuse, no matter where it comes from, it is still wrong. For example, in my life, I am married extremely young. The person was 7 years older than me. And I met this person when I was 15 years old. Just to make it quick and brief about the description, this person cared too much, always, about what people thought of him. He had just graduated college. That was the first red flag. I liked him. I was 15 years old, but I don't know, like, I was 15. I was a kid. I should have been told, no, you're not gonna get with that dude. And give me an explanation why. That didn't happen from my parents. They saw a guy that he was part of church. Like, he was part of something in church with the youth and whatever. He was respected or whatnot. And that's what they saw. And they saw it good. Mind you, I was raised in a very old fashioned way, in the sense of, like, I was not supposed to leave my house, which is what I wanted. My thoughts in my head when I was 16, 17, I wanted to be by myself. I didn't want to marry. I did not want to be with someone just because. I wanted to study, I wanted to graduate, I wanted to have everything by myself, earn everything by myself, and I wanted to do big things by myself. I wanted to be independent, but under my parents' eyes, this was not how things were supposed to be. Things were supposed to be that I would marry, and that was the only way I was getting out of the house. Not only marry, but also not have prior relationships, with anybody than with my spouse. That I had to be pure, for better, terms. Uh, and marry with this person. So I, being a minor, because when you're 17 in Puerto Rico, here's the thing about Puerto Rico that I also forgot to mention in one of my other videos. You're not an adult until you're 21 years old. So until you are 21 years old, you can't, like, marry on your own. You can't, like, make decisions for yourself. Your parents make all the decisions for you. And so I didn't have a lot there was nothing I could do. I felt trapped. And in my head, I was like, okay, so I thought that by marrying this person, I was going to have the freedom that I liked, and I was going to be able to do the things that I wanted. And it was not like being crazy or whatever. I just wanted to be me. What was that like at the moment? I didn't know, because I was never allowed to be myself. Nevertheless, I do have to mention that this is not to speak, bad about my parents or anything. I've made it very clear. I know why my parents act the way they did. They did not know better, and I do not hold any grudge whatsoever towards my parents. I love them to death, and as a parent right now, I know that we do not come into this world with a booklet telling us how to raise our kids. So when I got with this person, I really didn't want to marry. And everything felt like so forced and so fast. It was a long distance relationship at first. I was sent to Puerto Rico when I was almost like 17 years old. About to finish my last year of high school, and that's when we were together. Then in that year of 98, I was graduating from high school, and I did not want to be with him anymore. Like, I really didn't love him. I didn't love him. So I broke it off with him, because he had already given me also like an engagement ring. I was engaged by age 15, which is insane to me, honestly. Like, I would have not, but anyways, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted. So when we get back together, silly me, he immediately gave me the ring back, and he told me and asked me like, okay, so let's get married in 5. It was him. What I didn't realize, and I realized like this last 2 days when I've been doing research and going back into, researching and doing everything, is that I was groomed by this person. He was 7 years older than me. I was a minor. I was 15. He was 21. And when I realized this, I was like, oh my God, like this is something else. Like I have to like digest here. But then again, I know a lot of people might be like, yeah, but what about your parents? What they do? My parents were naive in that sense of them thinking that because he was part of the church or whatever he was doing, that everything was perfectly fine. Anyways, I ended up getting married to him, and I had already had, intercourse with him. And when I marry him, and I am pregnant, and I don't know that I'm pregnant. As a matter of fact, I started developing, I was already like, I think I was almost like a month pregnant when I got married, and I didn't know. Because after I found out, it was exactly the week after I came from my our honeymoon, and it was because of my mom. My mom knew that we had been intimate, and she's like, I need you to do this, to know if you're pregnant or not, because my mom is RH negative, her blood type, and she was afraid that I was the same, because if not, I need to get like this injection for my body not to reject the baby. That what she was worried about. And I ended up doing the pregnancy test. Voila, I'm pregnant, and I'm here like, oh shoot. So another one of the things that happened with them is like, because of him being part of the church, and people could not know that he had intercourse with me, or that if we had been promiscuous as per the church. I had to lie, and I couldn't tell anyone that I was pregnant for 2 months. He made me wait and lie and pretend like nothing was going on. After that, I started realizing that all the symptoms that I had in my wedding day and throughout the honeymoon, it was because I was pregnant. My life changed completely. He was a person that was very condescending, constant criticism and belittling me. He would isolate me from my loved ones. He would control money and all of my movements, because since he was the breadwinner, I used to work and study, but of course what I would bring home was not enough. I would pay my stuff, would pay my different things that I would buy. But he would pay like for whatever we all needed in the house. It always felt like walking on eggshells. He was cold as stone. Like he was so cold. He never to me it just felt like he just wanted someone just to feed him, take care of him, take care of the kids. And take care of the kids. He wouldn't help around the house. It was always me. I would carry the whole house. The way that you feel abused is like, oh, but he's doing this, and you justify one thing with another. Oh no, well, he's not abusing me because he's buying everything for the house, or he's not abusing me because he bought me this other thing. Or like, you don't know what abuse really is until you see that you are with someone and you feel alone, like completely alone in the situation. You're taking care of the kids. You're doing everything for the kids. He doesn't help at all, like in nothing. Like absolutely nothing. I would have to do everything for him. Iron his clothes, wash his clothes, feed him, get him like physically walk up to the kitchen, get him juice, bring it back while he was laying in bed reading his newspaper or magazine or whatever. Then another relationship, everything seemed perfect. Everything was fine. This person was very loving. He was a gentleman. But there was just too much chaos, and there was like so much. I mean, the place I met him, and it shouldn't be like this. It's not. It shouldn't be like where you met this person. That's what is gonna depict your relationship. But now looking back, I'm like, was this a red flag? I met him at a bar, but because I was never like this, I was never the person to be like having an addictive personality. To me, I would just go socially, hang out, drink with my friends or whatever, and not necessarily drink, but dance, talk, catch up or whatnot, play pool or whatever. But some people, like this person, I came to know really fast when we moved in together that he would drink every day. Like even like when we were together and I didn't have my kids and my first two kids were with his dad, we would go hang out when I didn't have my kids and he would get wasted until unconsciousness. And to me, it was just like, okay, it was just like those 2 days that I don't have the kids. And so I would be like, no, we're just hanging out until it became every day. He would not stop at the bar that we met at every day, but in the beginning, he would just literally leave his job, stop at a gas station, get a beer, bring it on the way, stop at another one, get another beer. And yes, in Puerto Rico people do that, and they can. Is it legal? No. Can they get away with it? Yes. You can walk around with a drink in your hand everywhere, and the cops don't tell you anything. So then stop at the bar, then get like 2 drinks, and then buy beers there, and then bring them home. And this was the norm every day until instead of doing that, oh, he found it cheaper going to the supermarket and getting a bottle of wine, getting his favorite liquor, or getting, hard liquor, or getting beer. And it was an everyday struggle. It went from him and us having dinner as a normal family to him, like me having to eat with my 2 kids and then tuck him into bed before he would be drunk by 9:30 every day. And the slurs and the way he would talk to me constantly, because honestly that person at that time, what I would say is at that time would just speak every like the most evil things. I'm like, how can somebody that loves me, allegedly loves me so much, can be such an asshole to me when he has drunk and like he's drunk. So he would say like nastiest things to me. He knows that I love my kids, so he would always use that against me and try to make me feel like I was nothing. And then he would just like try to fight all the time so he could leave, so that he could go drink and come back like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then he would start like writing all these notes and like sliding them under the bed or whatever. I mean under the door, because I would honestly, when he would do that, I would make sure the kids are safe. I'm in my room, and the room, it's totally closed. He had no access, especially when I was pregnant of our kid. this happened a lot. I was pregnant and I went through a lot of emotionally psychological abuse, and not speaking about it cost me a lot later, because I don't come from a family that you call the cops. I don't know what it's called. I mean, I did not know until a couple years ago what it was to call a cop. I did not know that certain behaviors you could call a cop because of that, and that was not right. So I just took it on, oh, that's just how he is. Oh, that's how he behaved. Oh, well, because we were taught to tolerate everything no matter what. And we're taught to that, we're used to the verbal abuse, the yelling, the name calling, you know, we just get used to everything and we just say, that's just how he is. We just take it as a personality trait and base everything on that, instead of like, no, this is wrong. He should not be treating me like this. And I never called the cops. I never said anything. I would tell my mom or whatever. There came a point that it just became just so much. I remember clearly one time we had broken up, and I gave him another opportunity, and we said we were gonna meet. My best friend at the time, she had my car, and I just left with him in his car, and he had told me, and he was already drunk, like he had pre-gamed that day, and I was like, okay, so we ended up arguing something really ridiculous, and he took my phone and he just slammed it across the sidewalk, and I ran, grabbed my phone, literally just, called my friend and said, hey, come pick me up, he is drunk and whatever. And I just literally walked away from him until I'm like, oh shoot, my wallet, where's my wallet? So I had left my wallet in his car, and I call him and he just hangs up. So what I end up doing is just calling him and being like, hey, because there was a police station nearby, and I was like, if you do not give me my wallet right now, I'm gonna go to the police station. I'm just gonna tell them that you're drunk and that you do not want to give me my wallet back. And then that's everything was true. So he met me in his car, and instead of giving me the wallet, he got the wallet and he threw it over the hood of the car, and it landed on the avenue, like completely open. Everything like went flying. And I'm just there, like literally just picking everything up. I'm just like breathing in and breathing out. I'm like, just, Spice, just get your stuff. Just put him here and just leave. He's drunk. You're not going to get nothing out of this. And it's best if you just collect everything and just move. My friend was just arguing with them and just like yelling at each other and everything. Like there was people around that whole situation. It was a very embarrassing situation, by the way. It was embarrassing, so embarrassing. And I was cool until I was kneeled down, and he comes into my ear, kneels down, and he tells me, let's see who's gonna be the next mother, that's gonna come and pick you up along with 3 kids. And I didn't say anything. I just kept on picking up my stuff. But that was the thing that got me. He was just screaming everything under the sun, every single slur he was saying. But I was used to it. Because I was used to it, I was numb. So I was just like, you know what? I don't care. When he put my kids into the equation, I turned, and I'm not proud of this, I turned into someone I have never ever seen. I went into my car. My friend was arguing with him. They kept on going back and forth. What my friend didn't notice was that I was taking my shoes off because I had heels, and I'm like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of this man right now. I had never fought in my life. And that's everything, like the adrenaline in my body was just like, just until he mentioned my kids, I was okay. That didn't hurt me, but you got my previous two kids that I got with my other partner, plus your kid along. Oof. That was just like, not, you're not gonna do that. And this is nothing I feel proud of, but it's something I went through, and that I do not recognize who that person was, honestly, at the moment, or who I turned into. When my friend finished arguing with him, I literally got out, and when she thought I was in the car, I slammed the door, and she was like, "Oh, where are you going?" He was walking away, and something my dad always taught me was like, never hit anyone behind their back if they're not looking at you. I tapped him in the back. I waited for him to turn around, and that's when I grabbed him by the neck, and I just pulled him down, and I just started like smacking him, just hitting him and hitting him and hitting. It was the whole so many years of holding back, and it's not justifiable. I do not applaud physical abuse or physical altercations, but in that moment, my body just went like, I just can't anymore. And hence, it was her and her dad there, my friends, and they were trying to take me off of him. 3 times they did this, and 3 times, like, I'm talking like her dad is big, and 3 times I went on, and I could not, I just saw red. I don't know who that person was. And I walked away after that, and he walked away. We ended up talking later, but the next day, like days later, but the next day, like, first off, I couldn't breathe. After that. I had never been through that. My friend thought that she had to take me to the hospital. I'm like, no, it's okay. It's just that I couldn't breathe. I think that when I was hitting him, like, I just didn't breathe through those couple of minutes. So when I woke up the next day, my hand was purple. It was all kinds of colors. I had never experienced that. I've never hit anybody. And he talked to me, and he said sorry, and he said this, and he said that. I don't recall exactly what happened in those weeks. I know we ended up splitting because he finally told me that he was not going to change. He was not a good example for my kids, hence either our son at that time, and I'm talking based on the person was at that time. We're talking about that time frame. Do not take it to heart right now and be thinking I'm talking about who you are right now. If that's not who you are right now, well, good. Just making that sure. And what really got me, like, I shook my head honestly after that, is the fact that nobody tells you when to leave, what to do, if you should call the cops, if you shouldn't. I should have called the cops so many times. And so many times, because they teach you that's extra, or they don't even teach you. I was not raised around that whole dynamic of like, oh, I'm gonna call the cops on you. Because if they would tell me call the cops, I didn't know what would I be calling the cops for to begin with. I did not know. So also with this person, something happened. a couple of years ago, he's married, he has a couple, where he did something in front of my mom's house where I was fearing for my son's life. And my immediate uh, reaction was to call the cops. I did call the cops. They didn't answer. I went with my dad to the cops. Here's where I got the biggest freaking reality check of my freaking life. I went because I was afraid of whatever happened with my kid and the way he left the house. I'm not going to give details. That's something for me not to share here. But to give a little bit of context, I went to the cops because I was supposed to give my son that day. I gave him my son that day. But when he showed up with a certain type of behavior that made me believe that he was under the influence of alcohol or something, because he was just acting out of whack. And he ended up shaming me and like yelling at me, yelling at my mom in front of my mom's house. It was a total disrespect, but mostly my reason to go to the cops was I was worried about my kid and the way he left, me thinking that he was under an influence of something. And you might ask yourself then why you let him take it. I'm like, well, I was told by the court that I had to give him back that day. There's so much around what is court and in everything that you just become so scared of not abiding because you do not want to be in the wrong, that sometimes you end up missing some opportunities of making justice on your own with your gut feeling. So not only my mom and I and she and him and my kid presences. So I go to the cops. When I show to the cops, and this is what I was talking about, I tell them what happened. I go based on my kid. Me worried about my kid. And I tell them what happened. And the cop tells me, the sergeant, he's like, ma'am, I need to tell you, and you need to understand that this is domestic abuse. And I'm here like so confused. I'm here like, what? No, he's not my husband. He's not my boyfriend. We're not together. No, this is not domestic abuse. Look how naive in my head. I did not know that all these years, even though I had left him, all the mistreatment in the text, in the, in the calls, and everything was still domestic abuse. And I did not know about that. And he tells me it doesn't matter. The sergeant tells me it doesn't matter. I'm like, what doesn't matter? Like, we're not together. It's been like almost like 11 years or 12 years. We're not together. So no, this is not domestic abuse. He's like, didn't you know, ma'am, that just because you have a kid together, it doesn't matter if it's been 30, 40, 50, 60 years. If he is texting you and he is, shaming you, belittling you, treating you like shit on text or calls or in front of you, even if you guys are not together and he's married to somebody else, that's considered domestic abuse. I'm like, what? Like, I was like, oh my God. And if this is what has been going on for all these years, you have been a victim of domestic abuse all these years without knowing it. That right there just blew my mind. And I told him, I'm here for my kid. He's like, the only way we can do something is if you file a complaint for domestic abuse, and then everything can get handled. It ended up in a year of like a restraining order where I had to manage everything through his wife, and I couldn't speak to him or anything. He couldn't text me or nothing. So many years of the way he texted me, because that's another thing. Somebody texts you, belittling you, shaming you, talking shit to you, that's abuse. You have a kid with this person, that's domestic abuse. And if you didn't have a kid with this person, it's still emotional abuse. Somebody that is belittling you, that is shaming you, that is still like just to make you feel bad about who you are, that is abuse. And that really shook my brain, because I thought that because I had left them, I knew why I left them. Because I knew that I was not able to put up with this person with the rest of my life. Like with somebody that is not even a good example for my kids. I'd rather to be alone and to be with nobody than to have someone next to me along with my kids, and my kids growing up next to someone thinking that drinking every day is a good idea. That is not cool with me. And the fact that that sergeant told me that when I came, it was a very long night. I had to fill like so many reports or whatever. But what I really wanted for you guys to take from this, it's not the drama about whatever happened. It's a realization of what domestic abuse is, and what some things that we just go through every day with our baby daddies or our baby mamas. We just think it's just, oh, he's just like that, or he's just, that's who he is, or whatever. We put excuses to so much, and we just like literally go through so much, and we take so much BS from people instead of acting on it. What ended up happening with me was that because I never spoke of what happened to me in that relationship with nobody except my mom or friends, I didn't call the authorities. I never called the cops. I never called him when he was like yelling at me when I was pregnant, when he hosed me down with a water hose, when one day we were arguing, I got in to take a shower, and I was pregnant, 6 months pregnant, and he literally ripped the shower curtains just because. But he had been drinking. And I never called the cops because I didn't know that I was supposed to. That I didn't know that I could. I didn't know that was abuse. That was how naive. And because we're always thought to, oh, would you just take it? Because you have to take it because family has to be together at all costs. It took me, me going to a psychologist, which I told him about, that I was going to a psychologist because I wanted an unbiased opinion, because I knew already that he was not the one for me. But this was my second relationship, and I didn't want to be just like impulsive and be like, okay, I'm out. I was okay to being out, knowing if he was not going to change. And this psychologist told me, you're on the right, he's on the wrong. If he doesn't make the effort to meet your expectations, there's nothing you can do, and there's nothing you can do with somebody that just wants to be abusing substances. There's nothing you can do with somebody that just doesn't want to stop using or abusing substances. So she gave me a lot of clarity on what I wanted, and that what I wanted was not too much. That what I wanted was something, fair, and that if he was not willing to meet that I was you know, I was okay with making the right decision for me and my kids. And then the second part was that he admitted that he was not going to change. So it is so insane to me, the fact that so many years went by with so many slurs and so many disrespect on text, and to me that was just normal. To me, I felt so stupid that night when I came home. I sat literally, and I had to do so many things after that, go to so many places, and I just sat there like thinking to myself, man, I thought that I was the wise one, that I was the shit, that because I left. And because I left, everything is over. I felt so dumb because for over 11 or 12 years, he was still abusing me. Not physically, but through text or calls or whatever. The way he does not respect the fact that I am his kid's mom. And it is just bizarre to me, the fact that you have a kid and you can't respect their mom, period. So enough about that. Let's talk about when people stay and why they stay. And I have a couple of notes here in my tablet. It's about when people stay, and that doesn't mean that they were weak. It means that they were conditioned. And many stay for the following: they're financially trapped. Either they are stay-at-home moms and they don't have the means to make money if they leave this person. There are kids involved. They constantly think, oh, what's gonna happen? Like how my mom used to tell me, what's gonna happen now that you have your kids? Like, no, don't leave him, because what's gonna happen to the kids? I'm like, what's gonna happen to the kids? Like, nothing's gonna happen to the kids. They're still gonna have their dad. What are you talking about? Like, her thought was that the kids were not gonna be okay because they were not gonna have their dad, instead of thinking that they would have been happier because they would not see the mom and the dad fighting, having all these conflicts that brings so much trauma and so much like craziness and chaos to a kid's life, and shapes them in every way and form. Other people don't leave because they're scared of retaliation. They're scared of what the family's gonna say. They're scared of what people are gonna do, or how their partner is gonna treat them. They're just simply scared. The other one is they've been gaslit into believing they're the problem. So they might think that instead of the other person being the problem, that they are the problem and that they have to fix everything. And yes, the other one is they still love them or remember who they used to be. Because remember, abuse it doesn't always start since the beginning. There is something that somebody just can start doing from a certain moment on, and then this person falls in love with someone, and then this person changes with the course of the years, and then you're just stuck on who you fell in love with, instead of, hey, realizing this person changed. This is not the person I fell in love with. From the list I got here, there's other things that I want to talk about, that's what they teach us versus what we needed to hear when we were younger. And it's, cultural, religious, or family belief that have harmed us. For example, keep the family together at all costs. Even if you're dying inside, even if all the craziness and the abuse is going on, you have to keep that family together because of the sake of the kids. But I don't realize, as I was saying, that the kids see all of this. Number 2, respect your partner no matter what. No. Respect is earned. Loyalty is earned. If you're treating me like shit, like, how do you expect for me to respect you no matter what. The third one is what happens at home stays at home. Means no telling the cops, no telling anybody, no talking about what happened. Because what happened to me was that when all of this case happened, he was found known guilty because I had never talked about it. I had never called the cops. I had never spoken. All the abuse that happened behind closed doors stayed there. And he might right now say that didn't happen. I never treated her like that. And he might say that out loud. And me looking at the camera right now, you know what you did. You know what you did. Deep down inside, you know what you did. If it makes you better to speak it out loud and say you didn't do anything, and that the court found you not guilty, good for you. But you know what you did at that time. It's up to you to change, not mine. Because you're no longer my problem. We have to counter the beliefs that were taught to us, because we have to realize peace is not the absence of yelling. It's the presence of safety. So you don't have to be perfect to deserve kindness. There's a couple of notes that I have here that I really do not want to miss at all. Being hard to love is not your personality. It's a lie told to you by someone you never learned how to love without control, because they were constantly controlling you. How I started healing and how I started breaking the cycle. Especially after the second relationship, I promised myself that I was never, especially after that episode of me, the whole aggressive part of me, that person would bring out of me the worst. I don't know a lot of you might relate to this when I say that when somebody drives you so crazy to the extent that you're just like, oh my God, and you just scream at each other at the top of your lungs, that is not healthy. So once I experienced all of that and I was out of that relationship, God knows that even though at 24 I had promised myself to be myself, I kept along after this other relationship. And I promised myself that I would never allow anyone to treat me that way and to make me tap into that dark side of me, and to be able to control my emotions and to be able to talk without yelling, and to come from like a grounded and very sophisticated place when speaking. And that's when I started studying psychology. That's when I started reading a lot of like books, looking at definitions, channeling the way I feel, being totally different in my approach and the way I deliver, the things I say. So that's exactly why I make the emphasis on saying that you don't know me. People who haven't spoken to me in years, they do not know who I am, because the old version of me is no longer here. And no, I'm not a saint. No, I am not like this perfect person. It's just that I am super composed right now because I don't let things get to me the way they used to. And right now I'm just like a very chill, relaxed, and laid back person. So this came after many years of working on myself, on working to be the best version of myself, not to be perfect. We're not perfect at all. By any stretch of the means, we're not perfect at all. This came with me setting boundaries for the first time with everyone that I met going forward on the things that I wanted and did not want or expected or did not expect in a relationship. For example, boundary number one, you're not to yell at me for any type of reason. You're not to speak to me in a tone condescending, like if I'm not understanding you. We are adults, and whatever we need to talk about should be spoken softly. If you're and if you're not able to talk about it in the moment, allow yourself to take the time you need to figure out how you feel, to calm down, to get your shit together, and then come back to me and be able to have a grounded and calm conversation. Because otherwise, and my husband knows about this, if it's not like this, we're not talking. It's not gonna happen, because once you go loud, I won't listen to you. I just mute myself and I remove myself from the situation, because there's not a reason why you should raise your voice at your partner no matter what. At the end of the day, you're with someone that you were supposed to be loving, that you love and you respect, and you're not supposed to be degrading this person or talking to this person like they're shit. Other times, I just decided to honestly just be alone, because I'd rather be alone than just like, again, go through something, or let's see how this person is gonna be, like you're just like your walls goes up, and um you just need a safe start. So you start speaking your truth to other people and you start clocking things before. That doesn't mean you bring your baggage, because you need to heal. All of this that you go through, don't victimize yourself. Take it as, okay, so now that I'm going into another relationship, then how should I behave? What should I allow? What I shouldn't allow? Let me set the boundaries. Let's have that talk. Because if you're not talking to your partner and letting them know what you're expecting in that relationship, you cannot expect for them to meet your expectations. So you have to emphasize yourself into one, you are healing. It doesn't mean that you don't have to talk about it. It's just that make sure that when you're talking about it, you're talking about it from a healing point of view, not from a victim. Oh my God, poor me, I went through all of this. Oh no, just learn from it. You don't want to go through it again. Healing is messy, and it comes with a lot of realization. It comes with a lot of overthinking. It comes with you revisiting scenarios so many times that hurts you, and realizing all the things that you could have done and that you didn't do, but that you can avoid in the future with another partner. So you have to take the time to do the work, and do not blame other people as well for everything, because a relationship is a two-way street. There's a lot that should have been avoided if I just would have left earlier. I decided to stay because of the false hopes. It was my fault that I left. Mine. Because I decided to stay. So we cannot be blaming them for everything. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You just need to honestly start from scratch. I know that leaving is not easy. For my example, whenever I left, all I needed to know was that I was convinced that that was the right thing to do. I never second guessed if I was gonna be okay, if my kids were gonna be okay. What I second guessed was, is this what I want? Am I sure? Once I knew that that's what I wanted, I would just take the decision and run with it, because it was the best thing for my kids. My kids came first, always came first. and my happiness as well. I was always thinking about my kids and what I didn't want them to see. And I always protected their, you know, their being so fragile and their innocence. You have to protect your kids' innocence. So, if anything, I said today felt close to home. Please know that there are safe places to go. If you want to leave, you really want to leave, there's a lot of places that you can go. If you're in a situation that you don't find yourself being safe, and if you're in the USA, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or visit thehotline.org. For Spanish speakers, Línea de Violencia Doméstica Nacional en Español también está disponible. They won't force you to do anything once you call, and you can talk anonymously. Just having the number and, just save the number can be the first step for any situation that you need. So if no one has told you this, lady, what happened to you has not been your fault. There has been a lot of things going on. So give yourself some grace and allow yourself to be, okay, what are we gonna do now? So you don't have to wait until it gets worse, to call it abuse. Some of the things that I said here, they were so simple, yet they were abuse. So take a note on that. No, you're not hard to love. And you were just loving the wrong person. So if you have seen this episode until the end, I invite you to share this episode with people that need it. If you know someone that can benefit from this and have a few examples of what is some things that we think that are not abuse but are abuse, and I haven't covered the whole thing, but just to give you a glimpse of some things that we do go through, remind them that they're not broken, that they're becoming. And my silence at the time might have protected somebody else, but my truth would always save me. So don't let anyone shame you out of your story, which is what I'm doing right now. There are so many women that feel trapped because we have kids, because what's gonna happen? Oh my God, they're dad. No. And also, that's another episode. It might be the next episode I do. What is like to co-parent with a toxic ex? That's gonna be a doozy. But anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for everything. If you know everyone that's going through this, please support them. Never give up on them. There's some people that doubt a lot, and they doubt themselves and their ability to make it work once you leave a toxic partner. Do not leave them alone. Do give them as much support as you guys can. A single mother, it's really hard being a single mom, and we're constantly being judged by society, by the way we handle things. And I'm not saying that there's not like crazy or chaotic exceptions out there for other women that are behaving chaotically. And the men are the ones that have to deal with the consequences, because I know it's true. So if you guys have seen this to the end, please put a yellow heart in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys.
And remember, we're unfiltered, unapologetic, and unstoppable. That's that.